I love this reading from the Bible because it's just so nice to be reassured by the avatars. And all these things shall be added unto you. It says, letting us know you head out in the right direction in life. You go about seeking first the kingdom of God. And as it says, as Arjuna says in that wonderful story from the Mahabharata, which precedes the Bhagavad Gita, sort of the night before, when Arjuna and Duryodhana, who are cousins, and they're about to go to war, and they're both seeking the help of Krishna. So Duryodhana arrives there first, and he goes right to the head of the bed where Krishna's sound asleep. But Duryodhana is the part of the battle that represents, we could call it our dark side, we could call it the worldly side, we can call it the habits and customs and desires that take us away from God. He and his family represent all of that. And Arjuna, who represents the more soulful, God-aspiring qualities in us, comes into the room where Krishna is sleeping, and he goes right to the feet of God. He just, in a much more humble gesture. And when Krishna wakes up, Duryodhana is kind of right there, and he wants Krishna to let him have, Krishna's going to give them a choice about what they're going to take into battle. Whoever gets first choice can choose either all of Krishna's army, thousands of men in an army, or Krishna himself, who won't fight but who would only guide him. And through a series of events and questions, Krishna gives Arjuna the first choice. And Duryodhana is certain that Arjuna is going to choose the army because, after all, who wouldn't choose basically everything in the world, all the luxury, I mean, all of really what we're faced with in life. But Arjuna says, in just such a wonderful little phrase, I want you, Lord. I want only you, because with you, victory is assured. It's just such a sweet line. And all these things will be added unto you. It says, you can count on it. As long as you're seeking first the kingdom of God, victory is assured. Last week, I was helping to lead a retreat up at the meditation retreat at Ananda outside of Nevada City. And one afternoon Friday afternoon, we asked the Nandi, who's one of the original residents of Ananda Village and a wonderful teacher. She came over to guide us in a class for the afternoon. And she said, I want to ask you all one question. She said, we're going to go around the room. There were about 15 of us. And she said, I want you to say one thing that you're really grateful for on this path. And that's a very hard thing to do because immediately 10 things pop into your mind. I mean, what do you choose? Knowing God, community, divine friendship. You could just go on and on. She said, so to be fair, I'll go first. She said, I know this is hard. And it was so dear what she said. I already knew what the reading was for today because I was going to be gone, a lot of the week. So right before I went up there, I read the reading. I thought, let me just have this rolling around in my head all week while I'm up at the village and doing other things. And she said, that reading from the Bible, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto you. And she stopped and she said, I'm so grateful after all these years at Ananda to know that's the truth. To know for sure, she said, I see it in my friends, I see it in myself, I see it in community. It's really the truth. If we do this, victory is assured. And it was just so sweet that that's where she went, to just affirm and confirm that. I went back to Ananda Village on Friday, and just 2 days ago, drove back here this morning to be with you all, to help lead a workshop called Managing and Transcending Chronic Pain. It should have been really called Thriving with Chronic Pain, because that's the direction we went in. And as well as doing that, which I'm going to come back to, I have been invited to participate in a conference that will take place up at Ananda Village in November called Meditation and Science. And Puru Selby, who's putting on the conference, he's a physicist. He's written me 3 times now to remind me, Shanti, this is science. You have to come with data. He doesn't want me doing the art of meditation, and he wants to make sure I get it. He wants me doing the science. And each time I write him and I said, Puru, I know, I'm reading all of these articles. I'm going to have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm even going to wear a suit. I'm into it. I keep trying to reassure him. But the interesting thing about leading a workshop on chronic pain, and we had, actually, people came from all over the country. It was really very touching. And preparing for meditation and science is that it's thrown me back into a world that I haven't been in for a while, that of literature searches and collecting data. So I've read, maybe by now, 60 articles on meditation and health. I've reviewed at least 100 or 120. And it's been a really profound and compelling experience, because if I had tried to do this when I was in medical school in the 80s, when I was trying to share with my colleagues and my patients that maybe a little bit of meditation, a little bit of thinking about something bigger than ourselves would go a long way towards the healing that we were trying to accomplish at Stanford University, people just, they sort of, I was sweet, and I happened to be good at what I was doing, so they tolerated my meanderings about that. But nobody believed me. People thought I was smart and a little cuckoo. I mean, that's really what it boiled down to. And there was no data. I couldn't present any data or do a grand rounds on meditation and science. So I had no leverage. It was actually very painful and very frustrating. Now I review these articles, and what do I find? Absolutely 90%, I'll say, so that I'm not exaggerating here. You can look in any one of 15 areas of medicine: hypertension, coronary artery disease, chronic pain, lifelong insomnia, depression, anxiety. I could go on and on. The data gets a little equivocal when it's about diabetes and a few other things. Otherwise, it's unequivocal. Guess what? Meditation works. It works in these huge numbers. I read a book to prepare for this, the weekend that we're still in, that I left. I read this book that was written by the mindfulness people, because they really have a corner on the market in treating chronic pain, and they've done it brilliantly, and they've helped so many people, and they have written probably close to 1,000 articles on it, and their data is impeccable. The data says, this is remarkable, you give people 4 20-minute sessions, 4 20-minute sessions of breath work. They don't call it meditation, but it's the same. And those people report, on average, a 70-some% reduction in their pain and up to a 90% decrease in suffering. Even if they have their pain, it's not running their life anymore. We don't have data like this in medicine. We wish our data was this good about treating hypertension or coronary artery disease or diabetes. So I started saying to myself over these last months, why is everybody in the world not meditating? How could this be? The data is there. Why am I still seeing people, talking to my friends, my family, everybody, people who can't sleep, people who have back pain, people who get headaches, people who have fibromyalgia, you name it, I now have an article on it, or 2 or 3 or 5. It's that strong. And I'm saying to myself, it's just drawn my attention there so much that I started realizing this sadness developing in my heart. This is what I've been feeling, is that we live in such a tiny little corner of what we're capable of experiencing and knowing, not just in our bodies definitely, but in our world, what we call happiness, what we call delight, what we call having a good day. I started thinking about it. You know, I see a lot of people and talk to a lot of people almost every day, all day. How's your day? Great day, they said. You know, I got the whole house cleaned. Or I finally got all of these errands done. Or, you know, my partner and I watched a great show on TV last night. Remember when Swamiji said that when I never read this, but Swami Kriyananda said, when they asked people about what was the best moment in their life so far, how many people said their high school prom? It's like people love to get things compartmentalized, and we live at that level so that if we get our house cleaned, we have an enormous sense of accomplishment and we feel good. This is no joke. Everybody knows it. You can look at your own life. What do you recount day by day? You don't say, I walked around practicing the presence of God and I got there for 18 hours today. Mostly we don't do that. Mostly we live somewhere else. And I've just been thinking about this for so long, about what would it take to help everybody make a different choice. Now, I'm just going to say this. I don't want to focus here for too long. God has really played a bad trick on us because our brains are actually wired to, number one, keep doing the same things we've been doing, and number two, there really is such a thing called negativity bias. Negativity bias, it's real. Our brains love everything negative. They glom onto it. They will hold on to any negative experience 5 times as long as the brain will hold on to a positive experience. The amygdala, which is an area of our brain that is meant to process emotion and experience in life, spends 70% of its time processing negative things. And there's a whole system in place, neurochemically, neurophysiologically, to hold us there. Now, this is just the science of it. We, of course, are much more interested in the spirit. But I have to say, in these last weeks, I've had some conversations with God about this. Why did you have to do this to us? As if it's not hard enough already. We have all of these lifetimes, all of this karma, everything that's happened to us to hold us in this place of such looking out to the world, such material pleasures. They're not evil. They're just so self-limiting there's so much less than what we could be, but we live there. And Swami Kriyananda said a beautiful thing in the foreword, actually it is, to his Raja Yoga book. He says, in order to move forward on the spiritual path, one has to have a complete revolution of the mind. That is such a powerful phrase. He said to turn away from all of the human customs of how life is meant to be, of just figuring out our whole world. We need an Etch-a-Sketch pad in our brain. That's what God should have given us, instead of an amygdala and all of these neurochemicals. You know, there's a famous neuropsychologist. I read this 20 years ago. He said, soon we will have data. These are his words. I think his name is Rick Hansen, I think. He said that will show us that our brains are like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive experiences. That's what he said. So we're up against a lot. But you know, I was listening to Gary this morning when he was introducing the purification ceremony, and he summarized the whole service today. But he said, I imagine after service, he knew I didn't, we're going to hear this song called God's Call Within. And there's a phrase in there about quenchless yearning. And Gary said, when do we get to that place in life where we say, enough, I have tried and tried. We are on this, Master called them waves. We have a success, then we have a failure. We achieve something, then we lose it. Life is just a succession of that. I feel so great today. My kid got into the right college. Next week, he's not happy there. He wants to come home. You know, I got this brand new car. I love it. Somebody hit my car out in the parking lot. It just goes on and on. These are silly examples, but it works for profound things. It is how we live in the world and how we see it. And Master told us when we get into those troughs where it's just, you know, up and down and up and down, if we stay in a trough too long, we get bored. And what do we do when we get bored? We find a way to create another wave, and then we have to come back down. So we create this endless cycle of an impossible situation. We all do it, and it's nuts. We may as well be hamsters running around on a wheel. That's what we're doing. When we reach that moment where we say, I'm done, there is more. I am going to seek first this kingdom of God. It's the most important moment in our spiritual life. It's a time where we say, okay, I'm going to get serious about this. Is it easy? Of course it's not easy. Anything that's worth anything in this world isn't easy. We have to, what does that mean? Seek. We have to ask ourselves, what does that mean? We have to say, I am going to keep my vision, if you will, my sight, my whole joie de vivre on seeking God. I want to attain liberation. I'm going to do it with great energy. We have to collect our energy. We have to ready ourselves. It's not easy. You know, I've been telling this story in a lot of places because it's been touching me recently. But I have a friend who I've been involved with for years. And, you know, as with all friends and all people, and I'm sure she could say the same about me, but we were very, very closely involved, and she had a lot of annoying habits and qualities about her that I was managing to focus on for many years. And one day it came to me, this is my friend, she's going to be my friend. I mean, it came to me in a deep way. As long as you two are in physical bodies, you're with her. And so I said, what am I going to do about that? I'm not going to sit here and continuously notice everything that's wrong about her. So I developed a practice years ago, a practice of seeing nothing but God every time I looked at her. Every time I'd forget, I'd bring myself back. Every time she'd look at me, I'd say, Shanti, that's Divine Mother looking at you. Over and over and over. Is that easy? We think it's easy. It's so easy to drift into, God, she's doing that again. I can't believe she's doing that again. Doesn't she know she's talking too loud? On and on and on. I could keep going, but I would embarrass myself. Everything about her that I thought wasn't right. But suddenly, literally, one day, I woke up and I said to myself, I love this woman unconditionally. I was no longer seeing anything wrong, and I don't. It was an amazing lesson for me. I had somebody come into my office last week. I'm telling you so you can hear how much a part of everyday life this is. And she was asking me about what she should do, her next step moving forward, or spiritually. And I told her I thought she should take the Raja Yoga course again. So she came to the first 2 classes. I mean, among other things, I said that. And then she didn't come. So I said to her, why'd you stop coming? She said, you know, I came to the first 2 classes, but then I realized I already know all of it, so why am I going to sit there? So I said, thinking to myself, and I said out loud, I said, you know, that's interesting. I taught last week. I think that's about the 5th or 6th time I've taught that chapter. I couldn't believe how much I learned. And then I said to her, you can go through life that way. You can say, I already know it. I already have my ways, my habits. I know just how to respond to life. Or you could come to class and you could say, wow, I have an opportunity to come to this great Raja Yoga class with new eyes, with a beginner mind. And there's a whole new set of people here. I can broaden my spiritual family. What a joy. What a gift. That's seeking first. That's bringing energy. Not, I already know it all. That's how we mostly face life. I already know how life is. I already know what I'm going to do when this happens, when that happens, whatever it is. This workshop that we just they're doing on chronic pain was very remarkable. I'll tell you just about 2 people. It was as profound an experience I've had and such an example of this. People came from all over. There were several people there who had never been to Ananda. One woman, and I know she'll watch this talk, so I'm going to tell you. She walked in. I looked at her across the room at dinner before the workshop started. On Friday night, I left there after our program. It wasn't over, but the 9:30 p.m. part of the program. I was with this woman for 26 hours, 8 of which we slept, 3 of which we ate. Not a lot of time. But she came up to Ananda, right, filled with the presence of God, filled with it. She was in the dining room, and I spot her, and I thought, she looks like a very sweet woman who's in pain. I didn't mean physical pain. I meant energetic pain. And I walk over and introduce myself because she had the tag on that said she was coming to our workshop. She introduced herself, and she just starts talking. Well, I'm here, and my kids were worried, and nobody knew what I was walking into. So they came, and they examined the room, and they went all around the grounds, and then they gave me all their phone numbers, and this is what she was like. I was breathing in my spine. And then she said to me, you know, I have an anxiety problem, and I get nervous, and that's why I'm rambling, by the way, and I can't stop myself. And I was thinking, oh, dear Lord. But then I said to her, I put my hands on her, right on her heart, and I said to her, I am so glad you're here. You have come to the right place. It's so courageous of you to come, which it was. Extraordinarily courageous of her. Last night, class is over at 9:30. We had all Friday night. We had all day yesterday. Beautiful program last night with Lahari and Biraj about healing and music. It was 26 hours of really just being with God. And she came up to me and just tears streaming down her face. And she said to me, "Am I the same person?" She said that. I said, "Probably not. Let's hope not." And she said, "I can't believe all that's happened to me." She said, "I love it here." You know, she opened herself up to seek first the kingdom of God. And victory is assured. She said to me, "I even told my husband, honey, I tried tofu." It was as foreign to her. I watched her. I didn't know if she was going to put the tofu on. There was another woman there who flew from across the country. She got there late, missed dinner on Friday, walked right into class. Last night she came up to me, hugging me. You know, she didn't want me to go, but I knew it wasn't really me that she was holding on to. She doesn't know anything about this stuff, really. She's explored spirituality before. Before she knew what she was doing, she was prostrate on the floor. These are the miracles that happen. Why would we not do this? Why would we not spend as many moments of every day as we possibly can? Not even those of us who are on the path. I'll share one other important thing. Several of the people from Ananda village came to the workshop. And so I was listening, and there was a woman there who was a chiropractor. She's been a chiropractor for 20 years, not from the village. So in other words, there are people there who have lived with their pain for a long time, who have a lot. That woman's a meditator. She spoke beautifully about how she's learned to accept her pain and how much more she can give to her clients. It was beautiful. But I'm listening to them on breaks, and I hear one man from the village saying, "Look, I know this is my pain. I know I'm going to have to live with it. I'm just giving it to God." All the right spiritual words, we would think. When we reconvened, I said to everybody, this is what Swamiji meant when he said a complete revelation of the mind. You who have been on this path for 20, 30, 40 years, no, you cannot say, I have this pain and I know I have to live with it. I have just presented you, to you just a tiny bit, to them much more. All of this data, all of these reasons, all of these ways that we can work with breath and meditation and energy, and your pain will be at least 70% down after only 4 sessions. What about after a year or 2 with this kind of focused work? We need to be so careful where our minds go. We need to pay attention, a complete revelation of the mind. And that's what we have to hold on to and be open to moment by moment. Last week at Sunday service at Ananda, Parvati gave a beautiful service. I highly recommend you all watch it. She said several things to us, but she said, remember what Swami Kriyananda said. He said, remember where you were when you first stepped onto this path. Remember what you were thinking, what you wanted. You wanted liberation. He said, don't let yourself ever forget that. Whether you've ever used that word in your own mind or not, that's what you want. That's what every soul wants, whether we know it or not. We want it. We are it. There's this beautiful, true story of a man in the 1940s who was studying salamanders. He was studying them because salamanders can replicate any part of their body. You cut off their tail, they make another tail. You cut off whatever these are called on salamanders, their little legs or paws, they just regenerate another one. So he found a way to energetically, this was not, I can't think of the name of the photography. This is not Curlian photography. This was before it. But he found a way. So to take pictures of energy. When the salamander was a baby salamander, the picture was of the full salamander. When he got off the tail of the salamander and took a picture, you didn't see a salamander there without a tail. You saw the whole salamander. We are already whole. We are that. We don't have to become anything. We are already the guru, the avatars. We're just stuck out here thinking we have to live with pain, or it's more important to clean our house than to spend 10 minutes meditating, or whatever it is. We're all caught in some type of delusion. But tell yourselves right now, you need not live in pain of body, mind, or soul. Isn't that the most beautiful news? Arjuna knew it at the feet of his guru, because with you, victory is assured. That's all we have to tell ourselves. God is simple. All of the rest is complex. That's what Sri Yukteswar said. Go for God. Why not? A few minutes a day. Keep opening your heart. Keep opening it until you feel one with God. It's all in your heart. God is love. You keep offering your heart to God, and you'll know it. It's simple, and it's assured.